Well, welcome once again in our ongoing conversations with the Hermit of Scranton, Lindy Morelli, of Lighthouse of Scranton, okay, who has been living basically a life of silence and solitude in the pursuit of the divine will. And so, uh, as you have been living this life, Lindy, you know a lot about silence. And that's something that our world has become so noisy. There are many souls who either need it or need to know how to get there. And I'm wondering if you could share with us a bit of your wisdom.
How much wisdom I have. I just think the topic is important for our day. It's something that I've been, slowly learning. I've been slowly learning about it, and slowly learning and experiencing what I can. And I know that for many people, the world is crazy, and there's a lot of noise, and it's hard for people to even settle down to have any kind of prayer time, let alone interior silence or to feel completely still inside. And so I guess the first step would be to try to, how do we still ourselves? And there's all kinds of, I'm sure there are all kinds of contemplative techniques and, videos on how we can do that. I'm sure the Rosary is a great tool. Because if somebody just prays the Rosary and they're very, very distracted or very, very nervous or very, very upset about anything, Our Lady says in Medjugorje that the Rosary, if you feel like very troubled, take the Rosary in your hand and pray, and just do your best to concentrate on whatever you can concentrate on. And whether it be the vocal prayers or whether it be the meditations on the scenes of the mysteries, whatever it might be, but it's basically just a multi-level prayer because it has the vocal prayers which engage our bodies by moving our lips and our fingers, by moving our fingers over the beads, but it's also the prayers of meditation and picturing and engaging our meditation and turning our thoughts away from whatever the external distractions are. And a lot of times people worry and wonder what they should do when they are distracted in prayer, but not to worry about that, just to see the distractions as part of whatever our experiences that we bring to God, and letting whatever comes into our life and into our mind during the period of prayer to just let it be part of our prayer, part of our genuine, what we bring to God at that moment. And I think cultivating interior silence when we're in the midst of a busy life, maybe making a meal and maybe doing other things, or maybe working or driving a truck or anything at all, just working on a complicated project or anything like that. I think the most important thing is to just remember that we're always in the presence of God. And, it's the wish of Jesus and the wish of Our Lady that for us to always have peace. I know that might sound like an ideal that is really hard to get, but the more we turn our interior gaze to God, just no matter what's going on, to always have our eyes always focused on God and on the cross and on the face of Jesus, on the wounds of Jesus, on the eyes of Jesus, on the most sacred heart of Jesus, which is always open and burning with love for us. I mean, maybe these just sound like impossibilities or pious platitudes, but I really believe that we can cultivate a practice and a habit which becomes second nature of just always constantly shifting our gaze and, not letting ourselves become agitated no matter what happens, regardless of whatever pain is there, regardless of whatever agitation or frustration or whatever, always just orienting ourselves constantly around the divine will, but also around the face of Jesus and the eyes of Jesus. And this will keep us always cultivating interior silence in the midst of busyness. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does, and I know there's many parts of us that need to become silent. All right. Would you say it begins with our speech?
Well, yeah, I think because, so many writers from the Desert Fathers on have written about, especially the Carmelites, of which we're both a part, part of the Carmelite family, any contemplative soul or anybody who's wanting to go deeper into their prayer life or into meeting God, into the meeting of God, will know that silence is a part of it, because if we're always speaking or we're always, busy with, we never can slow down. We never have any moments. There's no space at all. I don't know how to explain this too well, but there's no space at all in our words, in our day, in our time, we're just packed full with all kinds of words and all kinds of activities and all kinds of busyness and all kinds of stress, and we can never slow down, and we can't really hear.
So you
We
mentioned
can't hear. And
yeah,
God is always,
yeah.
God always wants to speak. God is always speaking at every moment, He's speaking to us. He wants us to listen. He's waiting for us to listen, to incline our ear, because he's always there. He's always speaking at every moment. It might seem hard to believe, but he really is, And the more we practice it, the more we incline our ear. Let ourselves be slow. Let ourselves move a little slower, Hold on a second.
Go. So I have a question for you. As you mentioned, the Rosary and the meditations that are so much a part of the mysteries of the Rosary that can engage our imagination to be there, almost in that a Louisian meditation we use in the hours of the Passion, of participating in the event. And so as our imagination comes into play, that can lead us into silence. And then my other question, I guess, with that is, when do we need to let go of imagination to go even deeper into silence?
Well, I mean, Saint Teresa, in Carmelite, we refer to as our mother, Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint Teresa of Jesus, whose feast day is coming up in a couple of weeks, she says that the imagination is sort of like a wild horse, but we just have to let it do whatever it does and not be not get agitated by it, like our imagination might be thinking of 3 things or 4 things at once, and we're trying to concentrate on a mystery, or if we're trying to do any kind of meditation on scripture or the hours of the Passion or anything like that, our mind might just wander to, what am I going to make for dinner, or what am I going to do this weekend, or, I have to do such and such and such, and our mind might have a long list of things, and there's no way our mind feels silent. Or we might be really worried about a problem, and the worry might just come back and back and back again and again and again. But we just have to cultivate not resisting whatever's going on and not reacting. I don't know if this makes any sense, but like whatever is going on at the moment. We don't want to resist it and push against it with a lot of force. But we also don't want to react to it and give so much credence to it and make it so important either. It's like, well, okay, that's there. I don't want to get upset about it. I don't want to push against it. I don't want to get upset about it. I just want to stay as steady as I can. This is a practice, and just remember that we're never alone, Like there was an old book that was written about Our Lady. It was called Wrapped in Silence. It was a wonderful book. It was about Our Lady and how she felt, She was wrapped in silence, her inner life, which nobody saw, except the angels and of course immersed in the Holy Trinity. And I'm sure Saint Joseph and Jesus, were a party to it. But I mean, her inner life was wrapped in silence, and a lot of her exterior life too, because she spent a lot of time by herself, when Jesus went off to his public ministry, or she was by herself, in the little house at Nazareth, doing her things that she did, weaving or cooking or waiting. And a lot of life is like that. In American culture and the Western culture, it's, we're just busy all the time. We don't know exactly what the purpose of anything is, but everything that we do has a divine purpose. Every moment in the divine will, of course, is everything. All our acts produce these divine sons, everything that we do, every breath, every heartbeat, every movement, every step, every movement of our hands, every movement of our eyes, every step is a divine. If we unite it to the acts of the divine will and the Holy Trinity, it's a divine They are the ones that act, you know. So knowing all these things, having the knowledge of these things, the knowledges are very important in the divine will. Having the knowledges, which are illuminated knowledge, you know, it's these things can help us to cultivate silence, because we're not just cultivating silence in some kind of vacuum. Every time we do anything, even the smallest thing, we join our acts to the divine Holy Trinity, to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Then all of our acts, they are the ones that are acting. And that's what the goal of silence is. You know, we might only have like 5 minutes out of our day to be really quiet, and our mind might not be quiet during that time. But God accepts us where we are. But the more we just have the intention of just turning our gaze, our interior focus, like it's away from the busyness and away from the problems and away from any agitation that we might have, or any worry or any fear, especially fear. Like fear is not of God, you know. And that's why the surrender prayer, the surrender novena is such a wonderful tool, because the more a person prays the surrender novena, or the more a person just says, okay, Jesus, you just take care of it, the more happiness can come into your heart, because you know that he is going to take care of it. I don't know how to explain how you know, but somehow you just know, and you don't worry about anything anymore. I used to be the biggest worrier of all. My family used to call me, the kids had a name for me, my niece and nephew, well, especially my nephew. He had a name. He used to call me Nervous Nellie. I mean, I think I am by nature sort of a nervous person, just by my biologically. But as far as worrying, like it's really like a waste of energy. And the more you know that when you say, Jesus, I trust in you, and you really do trust in him, you turn your gaze away from the agitation, whatever that agitation might be, the more happy and peaceful and interior silent you could be, no matter what is going on, no matter, even if there's like 5 things at once. I'm not saying that it's easy to do, but the more, it's like a practice, the more we practice it, like ice skating or something. I used to like to ice skate. And when you think of ice skating, you think, oh, brother, you know, how am I going to do this? How am I going to go out here? I'm going to fall and all that. You feel that way. But once you get started on roller skates or ice skates, the more you kind of, wow, like I'm actually moving and I'm not falling. And I didn't even fall. Like, how did that happen? Like, because you sort of get momentum. Or like riding a bike or something. When you first start to ride a bike, you're like, oh boy, this bike is definitely going to tip over. But then the more you start to pedal, all of a sudden you're just, I don't know, you're kind of moving, you're in a momentum. So the more you practice, silence is a practice. It's something gentle to cultivate, you know, like gently cultivate, with like a garden, like you cultivate a garden, you know, you water it and you gently cultivate it, gently, with gentleness, you know. That's what's so wonderful about God. God is so gentle. Our Lady is so gentle, you know. The Holy Spirit is the dove, the gentle dove, who lives inside of us. You know, it's such a wonderful thing to be wrapped in silence like Our Lady, you know.
I think for those who are new to this idea of moving into the silence of God, the God is both transcendent and intimate. Right? He's immanent within us. He's transcendent in the Trinity. And as you talk about the gaze of the Father and the Trinitarian God, I think of Mary and how she pondered all of that in her heart. Right? And in that heart, the Immaculate Heart of Mary, the Sacred Heart of Jesus, who dwell within our heart, there's this movement to this transcendent God who's outside of us and beyond, but in our very heart. And how can this silence lead us into our heart where he waits for us?
Well, Saint Teresa, once again, Saint Teresa of Jesus, she said that knowledge of self is knowledge of God. So it's kind of like we have one eye on what's going on. I don't know how to say this too well, but one eye on God and one eye on our, you know, on on our whatever's going on interiorly, but we don't become like self-preoccupied. We just be open to to knowing what's going on interiorly. Don't be afraid to slow down. And anybody that prays on a regular basis will know that as you grow in prayer, as a person grows in prayer, they do experience different things, and just be open to how the Lord is working in a person, in your life, in our lives. We want to be open to how the Spirit is moving. It's a very personal journey. Everybody has their own personal journey with God. It's not the same for anybody. We can never duplicate. Like Father Iannuzzi recently had a talk on, we don't want to duplicate anybody else's vocation, because we all have our own vocation, no matter how much we might admire the saints, or we take them as our role models, or things like that, but we all have our individual vocation. We have our own part to play. So we want to cultivate being ourselves in the presence of God. Just be yourself. Don't worry about trying to be anybody else, or trying to compare yourself to anybody like that. Just pray as you can. That was one thing one spiritual director told me one time. He said, just pray as you can. Some days it might be easier to pray, and other days it might feel more distracting. Some days it might be more formal prayers might help you. Some days, just singing might help you. All different things can help you in different ways, but it'll all lead you to a deeper experience of God, and a deeper experience of cultivating silence. And the silence can stay with you even when you're not in your prayer time. It can stay with you. And I think that's what Our Lady did. She was wrapped in silence when she was doing her duties around the house at Nazareth. She was always in the presence of God. She was aware of it, and she lived deep in the heart of the Holy Trinity. And that is what silence is. It's being immersed in the heart of the Holy Trinity. And why is it important for our life? Why do we even have to do it? It's because we want to be always in the presence of God. We don't want to be so fragmented and so scattered. We want to know that we are people of purpose. We are. We're people of purpose.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And thank you very much for these words that help guide us into that quiet, a quiet that will help us slow down, listen, hear God's voice, and then respond in kind. How do we respond in silence to God's call?
Sometimes we're very troubled, we're very agitated. We just have to respond however we can respond. The main thing is, I think, to just be ourselves. I don't know if that makes any sense, but just to be ourselves, whatever we are, whatever's going on, God accepts it. He doesn't want us to be like somebody else, because he's working in such a special way in each person, in the depths of each person's heart. He's working through their circumstances, through their life, through the way they are with God. No two people are the same. So just respond in whatever is genuine at the moment, no matter what it is. We don't ever want to hide anything from God. We always want to be ourselves, be genuine, whatever it might be, whatever was going on, whatever feelings we have. God accepts all those things. And the more genuine and honest we are with God, the more we can get to know God. I don't know if this makes any sense. It's just my own experiences. I don't know that much about it. I just think silence is so healing, and so it's so joyful to live in the presence of God, and to know that God is with you. Even if you don't feel it, you don't have to feel. It's not an emotional thing necessarily, although you might feel emotions sometimes. You might feel sad, you might feel happy, you might feel euphoria, you might feel bored. It doesn't even matter. It's not really about that anyway. It's just about being yourself, being ourselves. Because we all have a very important part of the plan. We're all part of Our Lady's plan. We're all part of the plan of God. We all have our mission field, so to speak.
Well, that is beautiful, because again, You're describing an adventure, a journey into a discovery of not only who God is, but in the discovery of who we are in Him.
Yeah.
So thank you for these pearls on wisdom of silence and the journey of it. And I look forward to any other pearls that you have for us in the future on this or any topic. So thank you so much, Lindy. God bless you. And do you have a word that you'd like to say or prayers? Launch all of us into silence with the prayer.